This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Shui Xian was speechless for a while, then she said worriedly, "It's been so long since I've seen Mo Sha. Furthermore, he hasn't come out even after such a huge commotion. I wonder how he's doing." Yunxiao smiled wryly. He guessed in his heart that Mo Sha was most likely dead, but seeing the little girl's worried look, he could not say it out loud to make her feel bad. The people in the surroundings looked at the center in horror. The three experts were all top-notch existences in this world, but Baiming Kongtian and the person who had drawn the sword couldn't even break through Guang Yuan's defensive barrier. However, Guang Yuan's face was also deathly pale. Clearly, this had triggered the injuries in his body, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He said sternly, "Sixth break heavens passing." He turned his palms into blades, slashing the sky with one hand and the earth with the other, slashing at the two people. Boom. Boom. Baiming Kongtian and the man immediately felt an unparalleled force and retreated in horror. Baiming Kongtian retreated 100 meters in an instant, while the man flew up into the air. After the attack, Guang Yuan also leaped up and directly flew onto the lotus platform. He sat cross-legged on Umitba, his eyes bursting with a cold light as he stared at the person in the sky. It was only then that everyone could see clearly that the man standing in the air with a sword in his hand was actually the fifth island master of Xiankong Island, Zhao Wenjuan. Fifth island master, Wu Fu, this, how could this be? Everyone was taken aback, and their brains could not quite process what was happening. Especially Coldfeather and Nine Heavens, they found it even harder to believe. Nine Heavens roared in a violent rage, "Summon Wenjuan." What's the meaning of this? Zhao Wenjuan ignored him and directly lowered his head. He looked coldly at Guang Yuan and said, "First Island Master, have you thought of this?" Guang Yuan's eyes were cold, but he still shook his head, and said, "I was wondering why you disappeared in the blink of an eye. With your strength as a ninth-tier alchemist, even if you can't defeat the man who blew the conch shell, you won't die in the battle." Zhao Wenjuan nodded. "I didn't expect the first island master to be able to sense it. However, this has helped me instead. You've hidden yourself very well," Guang Yuan said coldly. Zhao Wenjuan laughed and said, "First Island Lord, are you referring to the traces I hid just now or the Kasaya?" Humph. Humph. Guang Yuan snorted coldly and said, "You're not just a ninth-tier alchemist. The power of your sword just now is no less than that of Baiming Kongtian. I'm afraid he's already half a step into the 9-star level?" As soon as these words came out, everyone turned pale with fright. Baiming Kongtian's expression also changed slightly. The power of Zhao Wenjuan's sword was indeed not inferior to his ultimate move. Yunxiao was the only one who looked thoughtful, as if he had thought of something, but he dared not confirm it. Zhao Wenjuan laughed. "The first island lord has good eyes." Guang Yuan said coldly, "You've been hiding in the Xiankong Island for so many years without leaving any traces. I'm truly impressed. I'm very curious about your thoughts and purpose." Zhao Wenjuan chuckled and said, "Is the first island lord stalling for time? However, with your injuries, it's useless to delay, right? It's worth it for you to hide for several decades and let your old injuries relapse." "You've indeed investigated me," Guang Yuan said coldly. Zhao Wenjuan smiled bitterly. "First Island Lord, you are too serious. With your suspicious character, it is indeed very difficult for me to deduce the cause and effect of some things. By the way, my disciple was most likely eaten by you, right?" Guang Yuan snorted coldly and said, "You're so heartless. You're not even sad that your disciple was eaten. But it doesn't matter, I'll send you to see him immediately." Zhao Wenjuan sighed. "Life and death are determined by fate. I can only blame my disciple for having a bad life. As his master, I can only help him take revenge." The two of them talked back and forth as if they were having a casual conversation, but the content was extremely fierce, and everyone's faces were black as they listened. Guang Yuan sneered. "Humans are indeed a sinister and cunning race. Your goal is to hear what I've heard, right?" Zhao Wenjuan nodded. I wasn't before I came to Xiankong Island. But after I met the first island master, I became his. Guang Yuan nodded and said, understood. Although I still have some doubts, I've decided to skin you first before interrogating you. His face revealed a ferocious expression, and his aura slowly rose. Zhao Wenjuan immediately became alert. He held his long sword horizontally in front of him and pointed it at Guang Yuan. Streaks of golden runes swirled around his long sword, drawing upon the power of heaven and earth to form a boundless sea of swords. Elder Kong Tian, how about we join forces to kill the first island master? Otherwise, he would never let you go. Zhao Wenjuan said in a serious voice, wanting to pull Baiming Kongtian into the battle together so that they would have a greater chance of winning. Baiming Kongtian's face turned cold as he shouted, good. But, after I kill Li Yunxiao, I'll join hands with you. Zhao Wenjuan's expression changed slightly. He wanted to say something but stopped. At this moment, all of his attention was on guarding against Guang Yuan, and he had no time to be distracted. Baiming Kongtian flew up into the air, leaving several afterimages in the air. Like a ROC, he fell toward Yunxiao with an amazing power. Yunxiao's face flickered, while the Calabash King Kong and the crocodile both opened their eyes and stared nervously. Shui Xian also summoned the golden armored guards and stood in front of her. Bang! Suddenly, a loud explosion came from the ground. A golden light rushed up and drew countless lines in the air. Circles of strange power gathered into a palm and slapped towards Baiming Kongtian. Boom! Baiming Kongtian's pupils constricted. He had already seen who the newcomer was. In a great rage, he roared and threw out a punch. The two forces collided in the air, forcing the two of them to take a few steps back. Old man Baiming, the battle between us isn't over yet. The man laughed. The crowd turned their gazes over and saw the figure of the man in the light. He was the second island master of the Xiankong Island. Damn it! Baiming Kongtian was shocked and furious. Get out of my way, and I'll fight you to my heart's content after I kill Yunxiao. In order to kill Yunxiao, he could do nothing now. The more he could not kill him, the more anxious he became. The guest wagged his index finger and chuckled, if you want to kill Li Yunxiao, you have to get past me first. You coward. Damn you. Baiming Kongtian was furious and said furiously, you stupid thing. The veins on his head were bulging as he roared and charged at the guests. Boom. The two of them fought again in the air. Baiming Kongtian was using all his strength in every move, hoping to win as soon as possible so that he could kill Yunxiao. However, he had just exchanged a few moves with Guang Yuan, so his origin power had been greatly exhausted, while the officials and guests had rested for a long time. Under this situation, the only advantage they had disappeared, and the two of them fought to a draw. Yunxiao breathed a heavy sigh of relief. He was safe for the time being, but only by recovering his strength as soon as possible could he be truly safe. Fortunately, he had exchanged a lot of heavenly treasures in the market before, so he just chewed and swallowed them like he was eating snacks. This made Water Deity look at him strangely. Guang Yuan raised his head, stared at the sky, and said, honored guest, let's join forces and kill Zhao Wenjuan. The guest was having a good time fighting and laughed, no problem, but I'll kill this person first. Arrogant. Baiming Kongtian's anger was burning, and every move he made was with his full strength. The two of them were fighting extremely fiercely, and streams of yuan power shot out. No one dared to come close within 1,000 meters. Guang Yuan's expression immediately darkened. The words honored guest were just an excuse. With his strength, it would be at best if he could not be defeated. Ha! Ha! First Island Master, it seems that the brothers all have their own thoughts. Zhao Wenjuan laughed. Under the cold light of the sword, his smile seemed extremely cold. Zhao Wenjuan, don't be too arrogant. We're here to kill you. The 9 heavens and Cold Feather in the distance were both greatly enraged. The two of them turned into rays of light and rushed over, each displaying shocking ultimate skills in the air, pressing down from high above. Zhao Wenjuan's expression turned cold and he snorted, Island Masters, you should take a rest at the side. He conjured a sword spell, and countless golden sword talismans poured into the sword. He turned around and slashed. An ocean of sword chi appeared in an instant, and the entire sky was split open. This sword attack caused an even greater commotion than the one caused by Baiming Kongtian and the others. Boom. Three forces bombarded together. The sword light actually directly cut through 9 heavens and cold feathers attacks, sending the two people flying. How could this be? The two of them were dumbfounded, unable to accept the reality in front of them. He had always been the weakest among the 5 island masters, but he could defeat them all with a casual sword strike. Thank you, island masters. Guang Yuan's voice rang out, and Amitabha flashed with golden light. His figure disappeared, and in the next moment, he appeared directly behind Zhao Wenjuan. You still dare to divert your attention to attack me when I'm ready to attack at any time. Are you really stupid or arrogant? As Guang Yuan's cold voice fell, a golden light slashed down from his hand, instantly splitting space and directly cutting Zhao Wenjuan in half. First Island Lord. If I didn't make sufficient preparations, would I dare to be so conceited? That Zhao Wenjuan, who had been cut in half, turned into a ray of light and disappeared in the air. An ice-cold voice came from behind Guang Yuan, and a sword stabbed out. The sword light was as dazzling as the sun. Swish. Guang Yuan hurriedly turned around. The sword had pierced directly into his chest, and fresh blood was soaking through it. Ah! Everyone turned pale with fright. 9 heavens even roared, First Island Master. Only Yunxiao and Water Deity remained calm, staring at each other in confusion. A hint of a smile appeared on Guang Yuan's calm face, and he said in a cold voice, even a wise man can make a mistake. You are a 9th-tier alchemist. Can't I take this into account? What? Under the shocked gazes of Zhao Wenjuan and the crowd, Guang Yuan, who had been pierced by the sword, also turned into a golden light and disappeared. A terrifying pressure descended from the sky, and Guang Yuan's figure appeared above Zhao Wenjuan's head. He grinned hideously and said, after so many years of hiding, he's instantly turned into nothingness in a single defeat. He slammed his palm down with all his might, and the same golden light as the magnificent Dharma Lotus platform flashed in his hand. Zhao Wenjuan's eyes revealed a look of horror. Before he could even shout, he was hit by the palm force and slammed into the ground with a scream. Boom. A deep pit was formed on the ground, and dust flew into the air. Guang Yuan laughed coldly and retracted his palm force. Just now, he had borrowed the power of Amitabha and had already suffered some backlash. In addition, he had been injured by the joint attack of Zhao Wenjuan and Baiming Kongtian, so his body was already in a bad state. Arg. Devil sand. Shui Xian suddenly cried out in alarm. Guang Yuan's expression suddenly changed, and he looked down in shock. Zhao Wenjuan, who he had killed with a palm strike, had actually become Emosha's corpse. Shui Xian's eyes were filled with tears, and her face was filled with sorrow. Although Emosha was her servant, she had known him for a long time and had long Shui Xian treated him like family. First Island Master, you actually killed Emosha. I'm going to kill you. Shui Xian cried out in grief, and golden rays began to appear on her body. Calm down. Are you going to die now? Yunxiao immediately stopped her, his eyes flashing with surprise. Emosha's corpse was clearly killed long ago and had been refined into a puppet. That Zhao Wenjuan was indeed someone with shocking intelligence. He was an extremely troublesome expert. Guang Yuan's entire body went cold, and an extremely great sense of fear descended. The First Island Master is so cruel. I've worked for you for so many years and refined countless profound-level weapons. Are you so cruel that you want to kill me with one palm? Zhao Wenjuan's cold voice rang out, since that's the case, there's no need for me to be merciful. Clang. The sound of swords rang out, and countless sword regulations gathered, stabbing at Guang Yuan from behind. A sense of death spread from his heart. In his great shock, Guang Yuan roared in anger, sky-piercing finger. He clenched 2 of his fingers together, and they emitted a boundless golden light. There was even a faint illusion of a lotus flower on them. The golden light was boundless, and it pointed towards the sword light. Bang! Wherever his finger gesture landed, the sword gleam was instantly devoured. It was like a cannon hitting a mosquito. All the power fell into the void, and a golden energy ball appeared in the air under the force of his finger.
Ah!
Guang Yuan turned pale with fright, and beads of cold sweat broke out on his forehead. The sword technique in front of him was actually a feint. Boom! The space above his head suddenly exploded, and a huge energy storm swept over. In the center of the storm was a huge sword that slashed down from the sky. Beside the giant sword, under the cold light, Zhao Wenjuan's figure could be seen. His face was cold as he said, "Wailing sword rain wind evil tune." His figure and the huge sword fell at the same time, like a god descending to the world, so awe-inspiring that it was impossible to offend. Guang Yuan was so scared that his entire body turned cold. Under the threat of life and death, all of his potential was unleashed, and he roared, "Mixed element chi." The finger that had been pointed out was instantly retracted, and a barrier was set up in front of him. However, it was too late. The sea of sword chi had already charged down. It tore through the barrier and rushed into his body. Boom, boom, boom. The surroundings trembled continuously, and the sky exploded one by one. Guang Yuan roared endlessly, instantly transforming into his true dragon body and roaring in the sky, causing a loud roar. What? The first island master is also a descendant of a dragon? Everyone was greatly shocked. The strength of that dragon's might was not the slightest bit inferior to the previous run Xiang. Everyone's expression changed, and cold sweat trickled down their cheeks. Zhao Wenjuan's expression was cold. It was less easygoing and indifferent than before, but more cold and determined. He allowed Guang Yuan to form his body, like a dragon flying in the clouds, but he still couldn't break free of the giant sword's shackles and could only watch as the sword shape fell. Guang Yuan's hands formed hand seals, his mouth constantly spitting out obscure and difficult to understand language, which seemed to be the secret language of the dragon. As he continued to speak in the dragon language, rays of sword light appeared around his body and grew stronger. Amitabha in the distance was even more dazzling with golden light and lotus flowers in full bloom. All of a sudden, there was an earthquake and the mountains shook. Thousands of rays of light burst out from the bottom of Xiankong Island and gathered towards Guang Yuan. The sword finally fell, and Guang Yuan roared as he reached out with both hands. Boom, boom, boom. A boundless storm of swords exploded, forming a terrifying energy that spread in the air. Even Amitabha's golden light was swept in. The huge vortex remained in the air for a long time, unable to disperse. Zhao Wenjuan and Guang Yuan's figures had both disappeared, and no one knew what the situation was. With a reminiscing look on his face, Yunxiao muttered to himself, "Wailing sword, rain, wind, and swish. It's him." In the entire sky, besides the huge energy storm, only Baiming Kongtian and the ministers were left, and the two of them were still fighting to the death. Baiming Kongtian had nothing else in his heart. He was determined to kill Yunxiao and kill any god in his way. Shui Xian wiped her tears for a long time before saying, "You know that Zhao Wenjuan? He's also the murderer of Mo Sha. I will never let him off." Yunxiao smiled wryly and said that Mo Sha has killed a lot of people, hasn't he? In this world, the strong were respected. Could it be that only he was allowed to kill and others were not allowed to kill him? What kind of logic is this? This buy-in? Shui Xian was stunned. She felt that she could not refute and was stunned. Boom. Suddenly, in the sky, the faraway lotus platform turned into a golden light without any warning and directly charged into the whirlpool. Instantly, rays of golden light shot out from the vortex, dispersing the energy in the sky. Everyone's eyes widened. The two of them stood facing each other in the sky. Zhao Wenjuan held a sword in his hand and directly stabbed it into Guang Yuan's chest. Guang Yuan's hands transformed into dragon claws, and he grabbed onto the long sword tightly. He was already drenched in blood. Amitabha, on the other hand, turned into a ray of golden light and flew directly into the space between Guang Yuan's brows, forming a golden lotus imprint. "You're so silly." Zhao Wenjuan's expression changed greatly and he said in shock, "You've subdued the lotus?" Guang Yuan spat out a mouthful of blood and laughed endlessly. He said savagely, "It's all thanks to you that I was able to keep the Amitabha in advance. Fifth Island Master, thank you." His face turned ferocious as his 10 fingers stirred the long sword, causing the sword to let out a sorrowful sound. Amitabha has been silent in this sea area for countless years. These years, besides trying to find a way to restore its power, Guang Yuan has been studying the method of refining this thing every day. After many years of exploration, he had finally obtained a Shen methodology called the Rushi visualization. What made him extremely happy was that this set of Shen methodology couldn't be used alone, it had to be used together with their dragon's language to display its power. It was unknown why the sea god had set such restrictions when he first refined this item, but this was undoubtedly a great advantage for Guang Yuan, which meant that it was almost impossible for this profound level weapon to be snatched away. However, Zhao Wenjuan did not know the situation. Otherwise, today's matter would not have happened. However, after several decades, Guang Yuan had tried countless times to refine this item, but he had never succeeded. There were a few times when he wanted to collect it by force, but every time he was halfway through, he would suffer a backlash from the profound level weapon and could only die without any injury. At the moment of life and death just now, he couldn't care about anything else. He just took it by force. He didn't expect to succeed and save his life. Humph. Zhao Wenjuan snorted coldly. Even if you take Amitabha, can you still turn defeat into victory in your current state? Guang Yuan's expression was ferocious, and he said coldly, to be able to design such a perfect and wondrous attack, he's truly a genius. But can you kill me, who has fused with the magnificent Dharma Lotus platform? At this moment, the sea has already returned to normal. I'll only need a few years to devour enough food and recover my peak strength. At that time, I'll definitely kill you to the ends of the earth. But I don't have much hope for you to leave this island alive. Zhao Wenjuan said coldly. He struck out with a sword spell with his left hand, and the long sword exploded with a dazzling sound, shaking away the golden light in Guang Yuan's hand, piercing people's eardrums. The sword glowed with a sword light, and with a clang, it spat out a few sharp teeth. It was actually a second unsealing. A sharp pain came from Guang Yuan's hand, and the sword under the dragon's claws was no longer under his control. On both sides of the sword, a total of 7 short sharp fangs were spat out, emitting tiny whirlwinds that continuously attacked, each one cutting through his skin and flesh. And above the sword, countless wind powers swirled, and the faint image of a fierce beast began to appear, as if the sword spirit was about to break through the air at any time. What? Guang Yuan's heart trembled, and he cried out in disbelief, "You didn't use your full strength in that attack?" Wailing sword rain wind shadow realm. A gust of wind swept past the sword, and Guang Yuan was instantly jolted more than 10 meters away. However, he was still under the rule of the sword, and was unable to escape. He was shocked and angry. The sword intent in Zhao Wenjuan's hand became stronger and stronger. A bad feeling descended. He immediately spat out the dragon language, and a vast might spread out around him. At the same time, he formed a divine art with his hands, and the Ruyuan appeared between his brows, shining with golden light. It's no use. With your body that's about to collapse, how much power can you unleash from the magnificent Dharma Lotus throne? It won't be an insult to it if it's in my hands. Zhao Wenjuan's expression was cold. The beast on the sword condensed and slashed down. A vortex appeared in the sky with him as the center. A sword light soared in the sky and cut through everything. Guang Yuan's face revealed a look of terror. Under that sword, his heart actually trembled. The power of the lotus seat had been lost too much, and now that it was being pushed to the extreme, it actually felt like it was difficult to match. Suddenly, 2 figures appeared in a flash, and actually blocked in front of Guang Yuan. Coldfeather's entire body was completely beast-like at this moment, pitch-black wings spreading out in the air. Giving a long cry, the power of sound waves resisted with all its might under the sword intent. 2 daggers appeared above his head, forming a fiery red cross, and he suddenly slashed out. Ultimate style sky-splitting and earth-splitting. Nine Heaven's expression was also stern, and he transformed into 8 heads that bared their fangs and brandished their claws, each of them roaring. He took a deep breath, and 7 of his heads became listless all of a sudden. The power in his body seemed to have doubled in an instant. The spear in his hand was vibrating as if it couldn't bear his extreme power. Sweep across the 8 wastelands. An unparalleled spear light bloomed out, even overshadowing Coldfeather's power of extreme form. Under the 2 rays of light combining into one, it charged towards that endless rule of sword, wanting to pierce through this piece of sky. Guangyuan's eyes were filled with shock. He had not expected that at this critical juncture, the 2 of them would actually step forward. Boom. Zhao Wenzhan's Shadow Realm move was blocked by 2 huge forces and exploded in the air. However, the sword chi instantly turned from wind to rain and fell down. The 2 of them suffered a great blow to their minds. They both spat out a mouthful of blood and were sent flying. It was even more difficult for them to withstand the rain of swords that followed, and they revealed looks of panic. A demonic golden light appeared in Guangyuan's eyes, and he said in a low voice, "Many thanks to the 2 island masters, Guangyuan cannot thank you enough. Quickly come behind me, I'll handle the rest." 9 Heavens and Coldfeather both flew behind Guangyuan with all their might. That myriad of sword rain falling down was unable to shatter the defense of the origin chi.